Howdy, my name is Nonat, and welcome to a really chill video that I'm just throwing together on the spot, because it's something that I think some of you might be interested in. If not, today we're going to make a level 1 Kineticist, start to finish. It's going to be like a 15-minute video. I didn't rehearse or anything for this, I'm just like, that sounds like a fun idea, let's do it, and now I am. So like, I don't have anything else special to say. Use code Nonat if you buy some G Fuel. It gives me money. And get the Dragon Ball flavor. Strawberry lychee? Good stuff. We're not going to waste any time here. I've got my form-fillable character sheet, I've got everything ready, and we're just going to go through the motions, starting with putting 10 in each stat, because that's how you play Pathfinder. So, going through the motions, we'll just go in ABC order, starting with Ancestry. I have not done any thought going into this, so I'm just going to be making all of these decisions on the spot. And the first thing I need to decide is, do I min-max? Do I go with like a 16-16 melee build could be fun, but we just did the wood and metal element videos where I showed off a lot of melee options, so I think a ranged caster Kineticist sounds a little bit more fun. So maybe sort of constitution-based, duh, and then dexterity and charisma as secondary ability scores sounds really, really good. We could go classic dwarf. Dwarves make amazing kineticists, but honestly, I'm going to use the boost any 2 ability scores you want, avoid the flaw, the new rules for ability boosts for ancestries. So let's just do something cool. Let's do a... automaton. Let's do an automaton. Like, maybe they're an automaton with, like, a built-in core that grants them access to a specific elemental plane. I think that sounds really, really rad. So let's go ahead and give 1 boost to Constitution, and then 1 boost to Dexterity. We're gonna go ahead and min-max here. I think min-maxing makes for a better video construction presentation, and also might give some advice to people who are looking to get the most out of their stat allocation. Normally, I wouldn't try hard this much for an actual character I'm playing, but I know a lot of people find it interesting to try to make the strongest character possible with what they're using, so we'll be doing that today. We get 8 hit points, 25 move speed, and then we can be small or medium. Let's make a small automaton. Let's just make a little guy. Just make a little guy. So I don't really like any of the base automaton heritages, so what kind of weird versatile heritage can we use for our automaton here? The obvious thing would be like an elemental, like an Afridi or an Undyne. That could be interesting. I do like Gonzi. I really do like Gonzi. I kind of like the idea... Well, no, not if we're going with... Okay, you know what? There's nothing wrong with going with something that's expected. There's nothing wrong with not breaking the mold. Let's go with an Ifrit versatile heritage to represent the, like, conceptual idea that our automaton has this, like, crystal or mechanism within them that allows them to channel the plane of fire. I think giving them the Ifrit elemental versatile heritage sounds perfect to represent that. You know, the Ifrit, maybe it's like the soul of an Ifrit itself is locked into this mechanism in a crystal in the automaton's chest. I think that sounds rad. And I think I really like the Cinder Soul Ifrit lineage feat, meaning our Warforged is more resistant to persistent acid, bleed, and poison damage, and I just want to make sure that doesn't overwrite something that already comes with Warforged. No, Warforged don't have any resistance to getting rid of persistent damage, so I think Cinder Soul is a great first-level heritage feat. Automatons are really hard to pick backgrounds for, because you were just kind of built. So what was he built for? I want to say he was built to just, like, light fires. Like, he is basically the opposite of a firefighter. He's a fire maker. Is that a background? Sorry, I'm going to be eating my fries during this video. Ooh, here we go. I think this is perfect. Magical experiment. Someone locked the Ifrit's soul into our automaton body. I think that's perfect. It gives us a boost to Constitution. Trained in occultism and academia lore. We also get dark vision because we already had low light vision. That's huge. And an imprecise sense. Ooh. I think tremor sense is pretty cool here as an idea. We gain more damage resistance. I like cold resistance because, you know, we give off heat. It makes cold less effective. I like cold resistance and then maybe electric resistance because we're already sort of an automaton. I like that. And then we can touch telepathy. All right, I love this idea that our Warforged, our automaton, sorry, I've been playing D&D lately. Our automaton can't speak. I like the idea that it does not have any kind of built-in speaker or voice box of any kind, so in order to communicate with you, it has to touch you, and then you only hear it through your thoughts. Okay, so there's all of our ancestry benefits, heritage benefits, and background benefits. Now let's get to what you're watching this video for, the class benefits. We are playing a Kineticist, which means we're going to get a boost to Constitution, and then we can put in 4 more boosts. We're going to go with Dexterity, Constitution, Charisma, and let's go ahead and do Wisdom, because we're not going to make dumb decisions. Since we're a Kineticist, we're going to get 8 plus Con Mod hit points, which means we're starting with 20 hit points, a pretty reputable number. Trained in Perception and Will, Expert in Fortitude and Reflex. So Expert Fortitude, Expert Reflex, Trained and Trained. 9 starting Fortitude, that's insane. We're going to be trained in Nature and 3 more skills. So let's go ahead and take Nature. I like the idea that we're trained in Arcana because of the whole magical experiment background. Let's give us some Stealth, because sneaking's always useful, at least. And then maybe... See, this is tough for Kineticists, because no skill is based off of Constitution. So your highest modifier isn't applying to almost anything. Let's give them Acrobatics. Maybe they'll be able to get through some fancy little tumbling. We know one of our weapons is going to be our Elemental Blast, and our Range Strike is going to be our Elemental Blast. Trained in our class DC, which our key ability score is Constitution. Nice 17 base, as it should be. And now we can pick out our kinetic gate, which if we want to be a single gate or a dual gate, I think a single gate makes perfect sense. We are an automaton powered by an Ifrit soul in our chest. I think a single fire gate kineticist sounds perfect. So we get 2 first level impulse feats with that trait. In addition, we get the Fire Impulse Junction, which is after we use a 2-action or more Fire Impulse, increase the damage die size of fire dealt by that impulse by 1 step. Yo! Fire Impulses 1 step higher. 2 plus actions. And then we'll go ahead and pick our impulses here. Let's scroll. And before we pick those impulses, let's get our Elemental Blast here. It's just going to be +7. You know, so it's going to be trained. The hard part here, you kind of have to lie here. Because it's not actually using your strength, it's using con. I don't know if there's going to be a new character sheet that can work for this, but for the sake of this, our Elemental Blasts are Constitution-based for accuracy. Since we are fire, we deal 1d6 with a range of 60 feet. Now, our melee one does get a bonus from our strength. Unfortunately, that's 0. And if you want to write down somewhere, you can write down +4 if 2 actions, because if you use 2 actions to make your elemental strike, elemental blast, you get a +4 bonus from your Constitution modifier. If you have less, obviously, it's going to be less. So keep that in mind. You're usually going to want to use 2 actions for your elemental blast. And then, of course, 60-foot range. We have our base Kinesis, which obviously you might need to write down what that does somewhere else, because it does a lot. There's a lot of things this can do, but just think of it as prestidigitation just for fire. And yes, this is what I wanted to double check. At first level, we get a Kineticist feat and 2 fire Kineticist feats. So we can go pick a normal level 1 feat and then 2 level 1 fire feats, meaning we are starting with 3 feats on this character. Now, the first one, I believe, does have to be a normal feat. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you can take an impulse as a normal feat. Yeah, I don't see anything saying you can't. So, obviously, your normal first, second, and even level class feats are the only way to get the universal feats, so you'll want to put priority on those. But if you want to, you can just start with 3 impulse feats and no universal feats, which I think is a really cool option. So we can make our Kinesis a little bit better. We can get versatile blasts, allowing us to change the form of our blast. Interesting. So if we take versatile blast, that could let us use cold elemental blasts as well as fire. I don't believe this gives you any access to those impulses, but it just lets you sort of invert what you use fire for. You sort of invert the heat into cold. It's kind of interesting. Weapon infusion's kind of cool. Ooh, this allows you to change the type of the damage, so you could make it into like a firearm that shoots flame, and you can choose bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing. That's freaking cool. I like the idea that our automaton can sort of take its flame, form a fire rifle, and just shoot piercing bullets of flame. That's rad. So we want the range increment 100 volley 30. It's a free action too. That's so cool. So now we sort of have 3 different options for our Elemental Blast. We can melee 1d6 plus strength, which we'll never do because we have a 10 strength. We can ranged 60 feet, 1d6 plus constitution for 2 actions. Or we can ranged 100 feet, 1d6 plus 4 piercing instead of fire damage. So now we have a choice between fire and piercing damage. The only limitation is that our piercing damage, if fired within 30 feet, takes a -2 penalty to hit. Super cool. So let me write that in here. So yeah, now we have our 60-foot elemental blast and our 100-foot elemental gun. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and take a look at some fire impulses and we'll be good to go. So we've got 4 options and we get to take 2 of them. I'm not going to go super in-depth on all of these because that'll be in the deep dive someday, but I will tell you about the ones I pick here. I really like Eternal Torch a lot. Basically, this lets us cast the light cantrip, but we can have up to 4 of them active at a time, and they last as long as we want to. It doesn't really help us at all in combat, but you can basically give one of these to each of your allies, and then we have dark vision. So this is a really good way to make up for someone who maybe can't see in the dark if we're going to be doing some dungeon delving, and I really, really like that. I like being able to support my teammates in what they're lacking. Ooh, and I like Flying Flame. What I really love about the Kineticist feats that they've done is they're very flavor moldable, if that makes sense. Like, Flying Flame. A tiny shape of flame appears, taking a form of your choice, such as a bird, arrow, or sphere that flies up to 30 feet in a path you choose. I like that they give you the freedom to describe this. It is like a spell that you get to describe the form it takes. Mechanically, it's always going to be the same, but I love the idea that we sort of like conjure energy into our little Ifrit soul and blast a laser of fire up to 30 feet with Flying Flame. So for 2 actions, we can pierce up to 30 feet, and I love that it's up to 30 feet, meaning you can stop at an enemy before it reaches your ally. That's great. Fire damage to all of them. This is basically like a small AoE elemental blast for us. It's a reflex save instead of an attack roll, but I think it is perfect. And honestly, aside from... Oh, sorry, hold on. One more important thing needs to be done. Signor Flammenwerfer is ready for his campaign. Obviously, I would still need to pick up some adventuring equipment and other unique things to sort of flesh out the character of this magical fiery automaton, but we have effectively created a living flamethrower. And I think that's so freaking cool. You know, we are trained in unarmored and light armor, so we'd want to buy some light armor, maybe a backup weapon. I don't think there's any real need for it, considering we can conjure a weapon. I don't think the feat we took even limits us to just the ranged weapon, right? Yeah, you can choose any of these each time you use weapon infusion. So I've written down the 100-foot volley 30 feet option, because that's the one I'll probably be using the most, but you can change every time. If we're in melee, you can grab an agile melee weapon or one with reach, and it's super cool. You can even change every time you swing it, which I had never even thought of. With weapon infusion, you could say attack with forceful or backs, although I think most of these affect your second attack aside from reach, but you could use a reach attack and then weapon infusion again, and then agile attack a different enemy that doesn't need the extra reach. There's a lot to play with the weapon infusion feat, and I think that is phenomenal. So yeah, Signor Flammenwerfer, you get to play a Kineticist. They're honestly really simple to build. As long as you understand how picking an element, how your junction works and all of that, they're not that bad. They're sort of like a spellcaster where you only need to pick 2 spells. It's really easy to build one. They take a little bit of research to understand. I think in 2 videos ago, I said this might be the most complicated class in the game, and if you're looking at it from a sky-high view, it might be, but just making like a single or dual element Kineticist, it's honestly really, really simple. So hopefully, this made it pretty easy to understand how to make a Kineticist. Something I didn't even talk about with Flying Flame is because of our Fire Impulse Junction, it's not going to be doing 1d6, it's going to be doing 1d8 because all of our 2-action fire impulses deal 1 damage step higher. So that is a 1d8 area of effect, and that applies to our 2-action elemental blast too. If we use 2 actions to attack, not only are we getting the +4 damage from our constitution modifier, it also deals a d8 because those elemental blasts are still impulses. So there's a few different moving parts, but once you understand this character, I'm like, okay, I can attack in melee. I can attack in ranged. I can increase my range with one of my feats. I can cast the light cantrip in a fancy way that summons a torch. And I can shoot a laser beam of fire up to 30 feet. That's what I do. Otherwise, the whole game works the same. I still have proficiencies. I still have skills. I still have equipment. That's just it. Kineticists are super simple to play, but really, really deep to theorycraft, and I think that is the sign of a good class. A class that gives you plenty to explore and think about, but in actual gameplay, it's quick, it's easy, you know what you're going to do, and you can do it with relative ease. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video of us making a kineticist. If you want to see me make another one, let me know, because I could play with some of the other elements. We could make a dual gate kineticist. Maybe I'll do a stream at some point, and we'll make some live. There's so much to play with a kineticist, and yes, the deep dive is on its way. It's going to be a long one. I'm going to try to make some smaller videos between now and then to keep y'all fed, because I know you need to eat. But the deep dive is coming. It's coming. Don't forget to use code NONAT at checkout for gfuel.com to get 20 to 30% off your order. And drink up. It's hot, y'all. I got severe dehydration yesterday. It was brutal. Drink your water. Stay cool. And I'll see you in the next one. Later.